Okay, we're live, man.
All right.
You can start, John.
Okay. Hello. How's everybody doing? Let me see here. We are experiencing some technical difficulties since we haven't done this in a while. I still don't see it Prim. Do you?
I don't see it live on the bottom line, though. I mean, I don't see it live on my Facebook. I see us live here, but I don't see us live
Yeah,
on.
I don't see it in Prim either.
Well, I haven't shared it to Prim yet, but I'm just looking for it to come up on the bottom line.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And when I see it there, then I can go ahead. Okay, that's from the 23rd. Yeah, I clicked it in there, and we do not see it there. Let me see. Let me come back out right quick. Yeah, it should be sharing to the bottom line. I got a check mark there. Edit. I got it going there. You know where it's going? Hold on 1 second. I got you.
Okay.
It's on my YouTube channel. Let me see. YouTube.
Dad, turn off that overhead light. You got a glare on your video. Look bad.
How's that?
Better. You should also change the view to where your camera is, so you're looking at the camera and we're not looking at the side of your head.
I really can't. It's coming out of my portable.
Well, you can just drag the thing over to this monitor screen.
Okay, check out. So we're live now.
In Prim.
If I look at the monitor, it's probably the best option.
So this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go to your Prim page, John.
Okay.
I'm going to post this live on your Prim page. This is going to be from YouTube, a YouTube link for.
This is definitely getting out to the world somehow, some way.
No, it ain't.
Okay.
Well, it'll be on my YouTube unless you like my YouTube page for Bottom Line, which most people don't know I use.
It is accessible one way or another if someone wanted to go get it, which is fine, but someone would really have to try to go find it.
Yeah. Check out, click on see the YouTube link on your Prim page.
Yep. Hold on.
Yep. So we're live there.
Okay.
We're live there, and we're live on the Bottom Line. I mean, live on, what I was about to say? I forgot what I was saying. Well, so it's like we were saying, like you were mentioning earlier about YouTube blocking us. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it's doing. So it is what it is. There's always a way around it.
I see it, but it just says the Bottom Line, but I don't
click on it. It'll be live if you click on it.
Gotcha.
It'll take it live. But you want to mute that channel on your tab on top. Just mute on let's click on right mouse click on the speaker.
Okay, so people will have to click on this to see it.
Yeah. And you could post that right in there. You could say click YouTube link for live broadcast. Okay. Let's see. I'll put a post in there. Click YouTube link to view broadcast.
And then are you able to see people watching it or know if people are tuned in?
Yeah, we can check that. You should be able to see that on your page too.
And either way, this is recording it, so you can post this after. It doesn't necessarily need to be live. I keep reminding myself of that, is like posting live it's not like there's 1,000 people standing on edge waiting for us to do it. Like we have a conversation and we can just post it later and then read the reactions. That's probably just
So I just put a little post on there. Should get it. Did it go through? Oh, my comment didn't even go with this. Oh, here we go. I just put a link, a comment on it. But we are live now, though. So we can get started. Go ahead and you can lead it out, John.
All right. So, hey everybody. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We've haven't both Lamar and I both haven't been streaming a lot lately, and we use a video streaming service that is in change, I guess. They've made some updates that we're not aware of. So either way, we can still get this out. You can click on it live in the Prim. You should be able to see it, and it's also going to be recorded, and we can post it in its entirety later on Prim, and you can watch it. Either way, we're going to start talking. So obviously, the news of the day is the Trump verdict. I want to sort of focus on what we think the future is going to be. What is the impact of this going to be, or not going to be? But I guess let's just start off first. Lamar, what did you think of all right, let me ask this question. Were you surprised by the verdict? And I'll ask the same question to you, Dad, after. Were you expecting this? Was 34 guilty on all 34 counts surprising to you? How did this happen compared to what you expected?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a hung jury, actually.
Really? A hung jury?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a hung jury. I never did, we never saw who the jurors were, but just going by my perception of our judicial system, I thought it was going to be a hung jury. I didn't think that everyone was going to agree. I was totally shocked, which actually makes me now look back at the evidence that the jury was given, that from what they were given, they were then able to come to a unanimous decision. I didn't think that was going to happen.
Well, all right. And Pop, I think I know what your is. You were pretty shocked it was anything. What did you think it was a hung jury? Did you think he was going to be completely innocent on all charges? Did you think it was? What was your? I'm assuming that you did not think it was going to be guilty on 34 counts. What did you think, Pop?
I thought it was going to be guilty on 34 counts for a couple of reasons. First of all, there were two lawyers on that jury. And those two lawyers are employed by the businesses in Manhattan. And if in fact you can be pretty sure that they were going to be pretty doctrinaire Democrat. And my experience from having been on a jury is that those two lawyers could probably dominate the decision. I take this, I relay one experience to you. I was a foreman of a jury at one point, and the discussion was about whether or not a guy was guilty of driving under the influence. And it turns out that there was no record, there was no evidence that he really was driving under the influence, other than the fact that the officer said he looked like he was drunk. And he claimed it was sleep deprivation that caused him to do the thing that got him arrested. And so the prosecution, the state said, well, it could have been the medication that he was taking that caused him to be under the influence. Now, I looked around, we had disagreement in the jury as to whether that could happen. And so I looked at the rest of the members of the jury and I said, now, do we have any MDs on the jury? And nobody raised their hands. I said, okay, do we have any RNs on the jury? And this one young lady raised her hand. Yes, I'm an RN. And I said, what's your opinion? Do you think this medication could have caused the person to appear to be intoxicated? And she said, absolutely not. It's just not something that would happen if he overdosed on that. End of discussion. I mean, everybody went with her advice or her conclusion. And I can just imagine in the jury room, if those two lawyers were concurred and said, hey, this guy's guilty, they would convince everybody in that jury room that he was guilty, particularly when you figure that there's about 90% chance that they were all liberal Democrats in the first place. I mean, that's the way Manhattan is. There are very few Republicans, certainly no conservative Republicans. And so it was pretty clear to me it was going to be a conviction, no matter, and especially the part that was most disturbing to me was that you're really the business about whether or not he signed whether it was really a contribution and identified as a contribution and not as a legal fee was really there was really no proof that he had any knowledge of what was going to happen. It was like two levels of management below his decision. I mean, it was a standard process that this is a payment to a lawyer. It's a legal expense, and there was no way that no evidence that he influenced it in any way to not be identified as that. So that's the fundamental issue. And now the biggest problem I have is even if he was guilty of that, and there was little evidence that he was, but assuming that he was guilty of that, that is a misdemeanor, state misdemeanor. Somehow, the judge in his instruction identified it as not a misdemeanor, a state misdemeanor, but a violation of federal election laws. And now what you have is a state court trying a case that should be in federal court. And the most disturbing part of it was there was a guy that wanted to testify who was an expert in federal election laws, and the judge would not let him testify for whatever reason. It seemed like an obvious thing that needed to be discussed. And the third thing that bothered me most was we never knew exactly what election laws were being violated. There was a potential of 3. And in the instruction to the jury, the judge said, you don't have to be unanimous in which law is violated. You can have some people on one side and you can split it up 3 ways and have 3 groups and 3 different.
All right, we're getting away from the original.
Well, I'm almost finished. Let me finish. The problem with that is that is a clear violation. And the other problem is that was not announced until after the defense had an opportunity to defend the defendant. So what you had is a non-unanimous, and they came back and didn't say which of the 3 violations they found him guilty of. So you have a jury in a state court convicting of somebody of a federal crime, one of 3. They don't say which one. He never got an opportunity to defend himself. So this just can't stand on appeal. There's no question about it. That's my opinion. I'm done.
Lamar?
I got a question. So the questions I have for Bill, not just Bill, but Trump supporters in general. Now, I just heard this whole explanation you just gave about attorneys being on the jury. That's not the first time an attorney's been part of a jury. Secondly, you look at this thing about being a scam trial, a political trial, all these things. Is this the first time you've ever witnessed this before? Is this the first time you ever seen an attorney on a jury? Is this the first time you say, wow, this person doesn't have a full jury of his peers? These are terms I've heard forever, and no one's raised a voice. I've never heard Bill not one time over the past 4 or 5 years we've been streaming him to say, wow, that person doesn't have a jury of his peers. Or, wow, all these different things that we're hearing now. I look at it for the fat out facts that this jury saw all this evidence that was put in front of them of corruption by the Trump organization. It's all documented. Now you're saying, well, the judge has to say this. The judge didn't give these options. The judge made his ruling of what the jurors can and cannot hear or say. That doesn't discredit what evidence was already presented. Even if that election witness, this guy who knows election laws, would have presented himself, it never takes away from the fact of what this money was used for at the time the money was used. If Trump wanted to say, okay, we want to quiet Stormy Daniels, I want to protect my family, he could have did that at any time. Why did he wait until 2016 to do this? Because he was running for office. It just makes sense, doesn't it? Does it not make sense to you?
Well, let me answer a couple of things. First of all, it's obviously not the first time an attorney's been on the jury. My comment is that an attorney on that jury could influence the other jurors.
That's assumption. That's assumption.
That's an assumption.
Yeah, that is an assumption based on my personal experience. I'll accept that.
Yeah, but
Secondly,
I haven't been able to speak yet. Can I talk?
well, I'm trying to,
No, well, let him fit. I want to hear his answer right quick, John, if you don't mind. I
No,
just
go
want to
ahead.
hear the answer because I gave three things here. I just want to hear his answers
Go ahead.
okay. The other thing you
briefly, please.
said, well, it's not something we can address briefly. I mean, why do we have a time limit? You say he's guilty of a lot of things, and you may be right. He may be guilty of all kinds of things.
The proof was there. They showed it.
But what has he been tried for? What is he tried for? He's tried for mislabeling an expense, and you
Okay.
have to show that he had intent. He had a personal intent to do that beyond a shadow of a doubt.
It wasn't.
No, I don't think it was. I don't think there was. What you had is one person saying he might have done it, who was absolutely guilty. I mean, he was a perjurer. He was a liar. I mean, and there's a standard that is if a person is wise in one issue, it's acceptable to disregard all his other evidence. I mean, he went to jail for perjury. My God, I mean, how much of a liar? And then he admitted stealing from Trump. I mean,
Okay.
he was just absolutely not a credible witness.
He was never
Okay. Well,
perjury.
one sec. Okay. This is the one that really kills me. So everyone says that Michael Cohen was not a credible witness. Every criminal trial where you deal with a organization of corruption, who is the one who turns on the lead person? It's always someone within the organization. It's always the snitch. The snitches, criminals turn on criminals. That's what they do. That's how they get off. That's how they plea deal.
That's how
Check
the Department of Justice works. They get one guy to turn over the guy ahead of him, and then the other guy to turn over the guy ahead of him.
Check every drug deal. Every drug deal is a snitch in the organization because he's like, I don't want to do that time. So what does he do? He tells the information, and that's exactly what Cohen did. And no one ever said that they're incredible before.
So-
now all of a sudden he's not an incredible witness.
But
Why
Lamar,
not? He knows everything.
there's one significant difference to the scenario you raise.
Okay.
You're talking about somebody making a plea deal where basically there is agreement among the parties as to what the verdict will be. What you're talking about now is the information presented to a jury in which the defendant must be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is guilty of the crime and that he intended to commit the crime.
And that was
Okay.
and that's what the jury determined was true.
Right.
That's right. That they did that.
And that makes him a convicted felon.
There's no question
Four
about that.
times over.
That's absolutely true. But now, if you look at the timing of this,
Now we're going into subjective land.
no, how do you know? I haven't said anything.
Because Dad, the only way to justify this is to create a fantasy. Now look at the timing of this. Now look at this person might have said this, and this lawyer on the jury probably dominated in the jury room. None of this, none of this is.
John, I'm finished with that issue. I mean, we've got to agree to disagree on that. But
Why didn't this go to trial earlier? Do you think?
So
why didn't this case go to trial earlier?
Exactly.
I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Why do you think it didn't?
Why didn't it? Because this gave the opportunity for the Democrat Party to put a gag order on a person who is running for president in a couple of months, 6 months before the election. You're gagging him about what he can say about certain situations. That is 6 months before the actual election. I mean, they could have run. First of all, the statute of limitations did run out on this
The
issue.
statute of limitations is not an issue. It is absolutely not an issue. The state of New York had.
Well, the reason why I asked that question.
I just wanted
Go
to.
ahead,
All right, John.
I haven't spoken yet. I have not spoken yet.
Go ahead.
So, the statute of limitations is not a thing, okay? Because the state.
Okay, agreed. Let's forget statute. Let's move on.
Then stop bringing up talking points. That
let me move on. I'll accept.
Well, the reason why I said that, the reason why I asked, why did the trial take so long? How many delays did Trump attorneys put into this thing? How many delays that were there? Letitia James started investigating this before Trump was even at the beginning, before he was really going into office. She got elected. I'm sorry. In 2018 is when she started doing this investigation. This is not nothing new. This evidence was out there before she became Attorney General. Nobody wanted to put that pressure on Trump because he was already president. But this information was there before he ran for president. This information was there when he was just a regular citizen. And nobody pressed the charges against him. Nobody wanted to indict him.
And then
why?
Also, hold on 1 second, Dad. I still have not really spoken at all.
Yeah, but I got one question for
Lamar. All right, just write it down, and then you made the decision not to talk. Dad, you can ask when I'm done. All right, you got to be able to listen and not just talk. So you also have to remember that Donald Trump declared running for president earlier than anybody had ever seen. He wanted to declare before the midterms, and the Republican Party begged him not to because they were afraid he was going to hurt them in the midterms. He was trying to run for president to set up this excuse because he knew all of these indictments were coming. We all knew these indictments were coming. We can go back to Prim. I can do a search in Prim right now about Stormy Daniels, and I could show you posts that I've made probably 6 months after the election where this story came out. We knew that this had happened. All of this was known. Okay? So, and then he needed to run for president to be able to
save his butt.
Yeah, to be able to say, they're prosecuting me because I'm running for president. This has always been the plan. There is no, and also a 12-person jury. There is no way, Dad, you served on a jury. If you thought that this guy, that this defendant, that you had to decide him, if you thought he was a Democrat, would you be able to suppress your Republican feelings to give him a fair judgment? Or would you say, oh my God, that's a Democrat, I'm going to convict him?
I would be absolutely nonpartisan.
So you can be absolutely nonpartisan. But you don't think the 12, hold on, but you don't think the 12 jurors in New York could? Did you see how many people showed up in the Bronx for the Trump rally? Are you telling me that everybody on that 12-person jury are so partisan that they are going to ignore the law, they're going to ignore the jury instructions, they're going to just hate Donald Trump so much that they're just got all of this file that they're just going to completely ignore anything? But you can do that. But these 12 people in jury, that with all those people in the Bronx, none of them were on the jury.
Let me just say something.
All right, never mind.
Let me answer that. I don't criticize the jury. The jury did what they were expected to do. They looked at the information that was given to them by the people that testified. They looked at the law as presented by the judge. And what I say is that they were not given full opportunity for all of the information that might have been exculpatory. They were given a explanation of the law by the judge, which was absolutely unsatisfactory and unconstitutional.
No, that is not true. It's not unconstitutional,
Let me
Dad.
put it this. Let me say
You're not a lawyer. You do not know New York State law.
It's not New York State law.
And all you're doing is repeating the
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm looking at the Sixth Amendment, which is not state law. And the Sixth Amendment says, A, you have a right to understand what you're being charged with. You have a right to defend yourself.
You're saying it's not fair because you have a right to a fair trial. That's what you're trying to say. And you don't think this is fair. But apparently the judge in New York does. And the judge in New York's opinion matters more. And the judge in New York's opinion is an expert in this area, and you are not.
Why was it okay? Let's go back into history when, because this is the stuff that keeps coming back up with Donald Trump. When that jogger in New York was murdered and they blamed those 5 kids for doing it, that same justice system, the same justice system that we have today, convicted 5 kids who did nothing wrong. No one, the same people that are calling for a corrupt justice system never thought it was corrupt then. And it was a total, and the thing about it, the justice system was not diverse as it is now. I think that's what brings balance now versus back then.
Let me tell you what makes me suspicious. This judge is not a typical judge.
No, stay with my question. The comment I just made.
I don't understand the connection.
The connection is you're saying that the system is corrupt right now. I'm asking you, why wasn't it corrupt then in your eyes?
I really haven't looked
How
at it.
How can you be a Donald Trump supporter and you can't remember when Donald Trump ordered the execution of 5 joggers who were innocent of a crime? I mean, 5 guys that was innocent of killing the jogger.
I'll take your word for that. If that happened, it was terrible.
No, it's called Bill. You need to go
do you really not know that?
Do your research. Bill, do your research. Do your research because there's no way you could
work for it. It was
Lamar, they don't talk about that on Fox News. There's no way he'll know that.
That's the point I'm making. That means he voted for a guy he had no idea who he was voting for.
And therefore,
that's flat out true.
Falsifying a record.
No, what I'm saying is he has a history of being corrupt. Now, when you add all these pieces together,
we care about what the law is and what the facts were on this trial.
The facts were there. They showed the facts. They showed them.
No, they didn't. They had to show intent to start with. They had to show that he had knowledge of why that record was made the way it was.
Why did he do it at the time that he did?
They had to show that was incorrect. None of the
why did he pay her what he did?
For an NDA.
No. The NDA was done before.
Yeah, well,
why did he pay her?
Why did he pay her after the election? And the claim is it was election interference.
Why did he pay her at the time that he paid her? Why did he decide then?
Because it's common practice.
To pay people that you have sex with?
No. That's the easy part.
To avoid an election, that's a common practice. An NDA is a common practice.
Yes.
Not paying people that have NDAs.
Even to pay people sometimes
certainly is.
No, paying people is common. My question is, why did he pay her at the time that he did? Why didn't he pay her earlier? Why did he wait until he was going through the election process?
In office?
Why did he wait?
He wrote those checks from the Oval Office to Michael Cohen.
Why did he do it then?
The checks. You're wrong,
John. Bill. The question is, why did he do it later and not do it earlier? Why did he wait till he was running for president or in the office? Why didn't he do it when he screwed her? Why didn't he do it around that time? Why didn't he do it after the NDA? He waited until he was in a position of power, political power, and decides to write these checks to influence these checks.
May I to expose him?
May I explain your reasoning? You're claiming to affect an election. Is that correct?
Yes.
I just asked you,
Absolutely.
why did he wait? I just
Is
asked
that
you, why did he
correct?
wait?
Is that correct?
Yes, that is absolutely that. That is absolutely what he's guilty of.
I want to answer your question, but you got to let me do it. The charge is that he paid her to affect the election. That he
Yes.
didn't pay her until after the election. His claim is that he paid her to protect his family, which makes sense to me. It wasn't to affect the election because it was after the election, and obviously he did not want his family to be aware of what he was
But
doing.
it doesn't make sense to you that he would pay to make sure that this story didn't come out before the election, because she got the check from
He
David
didn't pay her
Becker.
until after the election, John.
He reimbursed Michael Cohen. She got paid money through the National Enquirer 2 weeks before the election to shut up.
No, that's not true, John.
That's exactly true. And then he got this whole scheme.
Well, we disagree on
he got
that.
reimbursed. Mike, he reimbursed him from the Oval Office after he had won, because Michael Cohen had.
There's the intent. The intent occurred after the election.
The intent? What? The money, the scheme, the money was paid to her before the election. Stormy Daniels cashed checks before the election.
You have to show that he had knowledge of it.
They did. They had video. They had audio recording. They had testimony from Pecker. They had a whole bunch of witnesses come up. And
they had one witness that claimed.
And Dad, I know that they showed intent because 12 jurors just sat there all for 6 weeks and listened to it and decided the same thing.
John, let me tell you about the intent. There was one claim of a text or a voice, or either a text or a voicemail, where it was claimed that Trump was talking to Cohen about the issue. And it turns out what Cohen was talking about was trying to get
14-year-old boy. I know. It's an irrelevant fact.
14-year-old boy.
He lied to that Costello guy.
Yeah, so the guy is not a reliable.
Donald Trump he's an adjudicated rapist. He's adjudicated business fraudster. What makes Donald Trump credible?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Why do you believe Donald Trump?
The facts make him not. The facts are just not.
Is he a credible? No. Is he a credible person?
He didn't take the stand to defend himself.
Hold on. Number two, even if they were,
Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen
defend himself.
Dad, Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen raised their right hand, went in front of a jury, faced the penalty of perjury, and testified. Donald Trump was afforded that luxury to defend himself, and he chose not to.
No, his attorneys told him not to. His attorneys told him not to.
So why did they tell him not to?
Because he can't shut up.
Because he cannot face perjury charges.
Let me. Donald Trump.
Dad, all right. I'm going to ask another question just to veer off, because, like I said, I didn't really want to spend the whole time. I want to focus more on what the impact is going to be, not retrying this, and that's what we're doing. But
no trust.
But I did a real quick search. There was 12 posts by me starting in March of 2018 referring to Stormy Daniels. That is 6 years ago. That is way before Donald Trump ever declared for the run for president in 2024. This story was known. He knew it was coming. So this is not new. There's no election trying to get after. Everybody knew about this. Okay, along with all of the other things, all of the fake electors, all that shit that's coming down, it's all going to go through. Also, there is no so that being said, like I said, we're not going to retry this because
that sounds like what you're trying to do. But go ahead.
No, I mean I know we had mentioned about that. I'm telling you that this Stormy Daniels is not. He's running for a president to cover for the things that he's done. That's the point of it. And that's Stormy Daniels. What? So, anyways, now the impact. I personally don't think there is going to be a dramatic impact in the polls. I think it'll be marginal at best right away. There has been only one poll that has been released, and I was going to have it ready, but then we had
about even. I saw it.
But it's not. It wasn't a Biden versus Trump poll. It was asking likely Republicans if is this going to affect your vote, and 10% of this said yes, it will affect their vote.
Which way?
Hmm?
Which way?
Yeah, affected that they're not going to vote for. I think I'm trying to find the.
How many said it's going to make them vote for him? I mean, it's
no. Either it was going to make them change their vote from him, or they were not going to vote. But either way is a win for Biden. 10%'s enough, Dad.
But there was a certain number of people that said that due to the
who's
way the trial was conducted, it will convince them to vote.
Central Park 5. Google the Central Park. Who's at it? Who's putting that up? Is that somebody we know from Prim?
I don't know. I just saw the comments came through from YouTube.
Who knows what this is getting to? But yeah, there you go. But so the impact. Dad, you apparently are you of the mindset this is actually helping him?
I don't know. We'll see.
I'm asking your opinion. I'm asking your subjective opinion. What do you think? That's the whole point of this.
Well, based on the amount of money that he's been able to raise from this issue, I think there is some evidence that it might be helping him.
Okay.
Have you ever supported anybody with this many different allegations?
No. Nobody's ever had this many allegations, so that's
no. The thing about it though,
was
this type of character,
one person who had this kind of character that I did not support, and that was Bill Clinton. I voted for Ross Perot, and I got Bill Clinton because
I would say Bill Clinton's a choir boy compared to this.
Well, that's what.
Well, what allegations did he have?
Clinton take one of those trips to go play with young girls on a island somewhere.
How do you know Trump didn't do the same?
Trump has got pictures with Epstein all over.
Exactly.
I don't think he took it right on a plane.
They were buddies.
They were in the same social circle, but so were a lot of people.
Right, exactly. Yeah. That's the whole point I'm making.
Bill Clinton is a bad guy.
Bill Clinton spent his time on an island. You asked me if there was anybody that was as morally bad as Trump, and I
didn't say that. I said a person with this many allegations against him. Have you ever supported a person like that?
No.
There are so many that before Trump was ever president, this character of Trump was already built. Most of us wouldn't even be friends with a person like that, including you.
That's true.
I can't imagine you being a friend to someone with that type of personality. So if a person who is known to be a liar, known to be untrustworthy, known to just make so many errors business-wise, why all of a sudden he's someone you would trust to run your country? I don't get that part.
Because I look at the alternative.
Oh.
What's the alternative?
Biden.
Okay.
No. We're talking about this in general. I mean, there's so many people you could have picked in the Republican Party over Trump.
I didn't get to pick him.
No. You could have picked someone other than Trump.
I don't get
with better character.
He did. He voted for John Kasich in 2016 when he in the primary.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry. I did too. I picked Kasich. Mm-hmm. I wanted Kasich to win that election.
Yep.
But so I apologize, Bill. My fault. My bad. So
he'll never admit that around Uncle Bob or anybody else. Matter of fact, he likes.
And it's not that. It is.
Anyways.
Well, that's Greg. That's Greg Adam. That was
Adam.
That
Greg.
was given the comments. Yeah, Adam Greg.
Okay, so that's good.
He asking, what don't you like about Biden?
What? Well, first of all.
I think
he's demented. Other than that, we could go on from there.
But they're both old and demented.
No, I don't think. Listen, are you telling me that Trump is as far gone as Biden is? Please.
Why was Trump? I know this is going off course. Why did Trump call out Obama's name like several times, like he was running against Obama during some of his rallies? He totally forgot who he was running against.
I can tell you what my opinion is.
Nikki Haley is the Speaker of the House too, according to Nikki Haley was
a question about why did he call out Obama. I could give you a rationale for why I think he might think that's true. I don't know if it is or not, but I can tell you why he thinks that.
So we gotta bend over backwards to justify him. But
it was a mistake.
If you'd like me to take the time and explain to you why he said that, why I think he said that.
Because he was old and he got confused, Dad. That's
okay.
And he's going to get confused with his finger on the red button.
Okay, John, go ahead and finish your questions, man, because we're going off. We're out of the way here. So,
like I said,
but you're never going to change a MAGA person's mindset, regardless.
Well,
that's the point, and that's sad because it's a cult mentality.
If you can explain to me why I should vote for Joe Biden over Donald Trump, I want to hear that.
The economy's better. He didn't mismanage a disease that caused millions of people to die, made us the number one death sufferer of COVID, that didn't bring embarrassment to our country, that didn't try to go after his political enemies, that is trying to get hired to do retribution. He's trying to make he's trying to control the last time I talked, the Fed. He wants to have control over the Fed and be able to tell them what to do with interest rates. He's an authoritarian. I can never say that fucking thing. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Dad, why do you think Russia and China and Iran and all the fucking wars have started? Because they like him. They're making him look good. They're trying to make him look good.
And I can take each one of those issues and go down them one at a time, but we don't have
either way. There's tons and tons and tons of reasons to vote against Trump, and there's very little. And he's a felon. Now he's just a felon. But I wasn't prepared for that. Anyways, so
I can tell you why you should vote for Biden. I mean, not that I said I'm not a big Biden fan, but
I'm not either.
When I look at the record of what they have done. Yeah. I can go through a list of things right now that they've done that Trump didn't do.
What?
I can give you a list of things here. And I can actually give you, and think about it is this, the sad part is that,
like I said,
the Biden administration does a bad job of messaging what they've done. That's one of the things that to their fault, in my opinion, because right now it shows lowering the cost of families' everyday expenses. That's one thing they did do. And you can open it up. It talks everything from lower costs for families, from schoolings to what is that right here? 2,000 annual cap on
adding $8.2 trillion to the deficit.
Right. 15. I mean, there's so many things you can go on and on about that that you don't see a lot of media coverage over, and that's our media. Our media does it.
The stock market is better now than it was under Trump by a
lot. The child tax credit that takes so many millions of kids out of poverty. Just the child tax
wages are up.
I could take each one of those issues and the other side of it.
No. We're talking. What I'm saying is that these are things that were done. And you know what I'm saying? The infrastructure bill was one of the things that done. It brought more jobs in. It brought more people are complaining about inflation.
The infrastructure bill for months and months and months. He did everything he could do to try and get an infrastructure bill, but because he is the manager that he is, he can't get anybody to work with him. He would have touted the infrastructure bill as his greatest accomplishment if he could have gotten it across the goal line. And you would have been supporting him. But the fact that Joe Biden got it done, now it's the biggest, oh my God, he passed the infrastructure bill. It's the worst thing. Look at the price tag. You can't have bridges fall and then apologize to go fix them. The infrastructure bill pays for itself. It raises GDP.
That's all the Republican states that are using that money from the infrastructure bill. How many Republican states are using that money right now?
Yeah.
Tons of them.
Love all
Texas, I know for a fact because I live in Texas.
They're going back to their districts saying that, look, I've got this money here, and then somebody points out to them, but you voted against it.
Yeah,
exactly. They're taking credit for it by voting against it. They're fixing the communities where our broadband is so far behind. Broadband is commerce. You cannot have small towns out in the middle of nowhere with no access to commerce. if you don't have broadband to them, they've got to be a farmer, and they've got to stay in their town and going to be a farmer. Schools need to have broadband to stay educated and be at pace with the rest of the world. It's huge. It's hugely important. We have to keep pace. We can't pretend that we live on an island and we have all the resources, and because we don't have everything under our feet to make things. We have to work with the rest of the world. If we want cell phones, we need the rare earth minerals that are in China. If they want stuff from us, we have to be in a global community. You favor being an isolationist. I do not. I am favor being a member of the world community.
A globalist.
You call it what you want. If we're going to do globalists and isolationists, and if you're going to make me say that that's a yin or yang choice, I'm going to pick a globalist, because it can't be an isolationist. You cannot.
There's the link.
Unless
there's the link for their record. That's the link for their record.
Off the wheat that we grow and the oil that we and never sell it to the world.
Your strategy is to go from point to point to point to point and not let it recover for any one of your points. But I'll just sit here and listen to what you think without any contrary opinion.
Good, because it's probably the only time you do listen to any kind of opposing views. So that's
no. Well, I just put the link there. I just put the link there of the record. If you can dispute what they've done, there's the link there. You can click on it. If you can dispute what they've already done and say no, that's not true, then you have an argument. This is showing what they've completed since their administration's been. I'm like I said, I'm not the biggest.
Now we're good. I really want to stay to the impact.
Okay, go ahead. My bad.
We're getting off into a bite and bite.
Let me just respond.
Let's do an appeal. You want to talk about the appeal?
No. I just want 5 minutes to respond to what Lamar just said.
Go ahead.
You're assuming that I would disagree with everything you put up there. My problem is with a lot of the things that you put up there are not that they shouldn't be done. My problem is with when you spend on something like an infrastructure bill, which costs trillions or billions or whatever it is. You need in the budget, you need to have what is called pay-fors. You need to say, we're going to take the money from here and put it to there so that we can spend it on infrastructure. You can't just say, we're going to borrow the money from somewhere and we're going to spend it on
going to raise GDP.
Please
look at that, and then GDP is going to pay
now
for
we're
it.
changing to GDP. Let's finish with infrastructure. We'll go to GDP next, if you'd like. Why it raised?
Dad, we're $32 trillion in debt. We have no money. With the theory that you're saying that we can never spend another nickel on anything ever again because we are broke. You're saying that we can never look at future incomes to pay off our debts now because we don't have the money in the bank now. So screw Israel, screw Ukraine, screw everything, screw anybody that needs any kind of public assistance, any welfare, any money that we spend here. We don't have any money here because we're broke. So
your assumption is that there is no money in the budget, which is not improperly or inefficiently spent. Is that your position?
The money in the
we can find in the budget that ought to be removed.
80% of the budget is military spending, entitlements, entitlements and military spending. So if you want to take away Social Security or Medicare for that, you are both benefiting.
I don't want to do that.
Or stop buying, 9 freaking aircraft carriers to sit there and fight over the Department of Education, which is like 0.02%. We're fighting about stupid stuff.
How much is the Department of Education? How many dollars?
Very, very small part of the whole pie. It's a very tiny.
If we wipe that out, would that pay for a piece of the infrastructure?
No, it would do nothing. And the only reason why you want to get rid of the Department of Education is because you think that it's impossible, that no one thinks like you, and that kids are getting indoctrinated. So you want to take away their money because you're afraid that there's a cabal of liberal professors out there teaching all these kids to hate Republicans. No, you're doing.
I think it's pretty clear that there's a cabal out there teaching all these kids to hate Jews.
Dad, that's not true either. There's people protesting. There's nobody's anyways, that's like I said. Let's go talk about the appeal. So, in order to be an appeal,
again,
well, because I wanted, this was the whole point of this was talk about the thing and its impact, the trial and the impact. So, okay. Is there going to be an appeal? There's no way there's going to be an appeal. That's funny now because Trump is all about delay, but now he's going to try and get an appeal heard before the election, which I don't think is even possible.
Appeal to whom? Which appeal?
It's got to go through the right. It's got to go to New York State first.
That's not true.
Yes,
it is.
Yes,
there's a process. Before it can go to federal court, it has to go through the state.
Jack Smith. Jack Smith tried to. He asked the one that's in front of the immunity charge. He tried to get the Washington D.C. appellate, whatever. He tried to skip over that and go right to the Supreme Court so he could get to trial first. The Supreme Court already ruled and told Jack Smith, no, you need to go to the D.C. appellate courts first.
That's a different issue.
Which he did. So now you're telling me that if the Supreme Court comes in and says, D.C., no, you got to go through the proper channels, you think the Supreme Court is going to just step on the state's powers? That is the biggest overreach of federal government ever. How could you, being a conservative, think that that's a good thing?
I didn't say it was.
Would you be in favor of that? The Supreme Court stepping on the appeal process of New York State?
You didn't even let me talk about what I want to do.
I'm asking you a question.
You knew what I was going to say.
All right, you said that there's a way that it could be appealed to the Supreme Court without going through the appellate things. And would you be in favor of that?
There can be a motion called a motion for certiorari, I believe it is, which can be appealed directly to the Supreme Court.
And do you think? Yes, I know it can. You can ask, but do you think that's a good idea that it should skip over the New York appellate court?
May I finish, please?
Well, answer that question first, so that way we don't have to hear 10 minutes of bloviating. Because if you don't believe that, then there's no sense in talking that. You think it's a good idea for the Supreme Court to step on the New York State appeal courts?
I think that's for the Supreme Court to decide.
That's not unanswered. That's not answering the question I asked you.
And I think there is precedent for them to do that.
That is not a conservative standpoint. I'm not
a conservative.
Then stop pretending that you're a Republican. Stop pretending that you're a conservative. You are in a
Republican
cult. That's what you wanted to bend the rules to make your guy win.
I'm not saying it's bending the rules. I'm saying let's follow precedent.
All right. The precedent is that there's an appellate court for a reason.
The precedent is that there is precedent for skipping over the state.
You can't skip. You can't skip. It shows right here. It shows right here. It says the states can decide. Okay, here we go. Right. The next one says right here.
Let me ask
you.
So
it has to go through the appellate division. Once the court rules, the New York Court of Appeals, the state's highest court, can decide if it wants to hear an appeal. That's if it wants to hear an appeal. Then the Supreme Court can only get involved if some element of the appeal relates to constitutional or federal law, which doesn't apply to this situation.
And
how can they? So they have to go through the state.
And if the only thing that you're saying that it is like the amendment, Sixth Amendment says right to a fair trial, and this is not fair, you better have a better argument than that.
There is. You don't want to hear it.
You need to have specifics to get appeal court.
I'll tell you what the argument would be, but you don't want to hear it.
What are they?
It would be the same as the argument that occurred in the 2020 election, where they heard an appeal, Bush versus what's his name, and Gore. They heard a direct appeal of the Florida decision to hear certain counties in Florida. The Supreme Court took that directly because it affected the impact of the election directly. That argument, I'm not saying it's true, I'm not saying it would be accepted, but one could make that rational argument in this case to the Supreme Court, and say you must hear it because it has a direct impact on the election. In that, first of all, you're not allowing one of the individuals to speak. You may put him in prison when he wants to be out and campaigning for president of the United States. You have the potential to lock him up in Rikers Island or something. You're interfering with the election process. Therefore, I'm not saying it's a good argument. I'm not saying it'll be accepted, but there certainly can be an argument made to the Supreme Court that they ought to hear this directly.
Hey,
is it New York? Is it because of New York and Florida? Are they different in their process? Could that be a reason why New York is doing it one way and Florida's doing it a different way?
I don't know. I suspect that I think that the reason the Florida case was heard was because it had a direct impact on the election.
Hey, Lamar,
I think you could say not allowing Trump to campaign also has a direct influence on the election.
Okay.
All right, Lamar, look in the messenger. I just sent you a picture of the New York State appellate judges. Can you post that? You can see it.
Yeah, I got it.
You guys aren't making an argument against what my.
God, I want you to see the New York State appellate judges. Tell me
why is that interesting? Why am I interested in that?
I don't know. It might be interesting to you.
He's gonna have a reason why it's not gonna work.
No,
I can hear it. I can see it. Right. That's the same thing they're saying about the attorneys that brought the indictment.
I want to hear Dad's reaction when he sees that picture.
I just made an argument to the Supreme Court as to why they ought to hear this case.
Yeah, but
let me find it. Hey, you want to let me bring pictures up? Let me bring overlay video.
Argument as to why the Supreme Court should not hear this argument.
Well, like I said, none of this is going to happen before November 5th. So
it could happen tomorrow if they decided.
Yeah, well, it's not going to happen.
I agree. It's probably not going to happen tomorrow, but it certainly could happen soon. Before
trying to see how I can let me get were you able to see it?
Yeah, I saw it for a second. There you go. Dad, can you see that?
I see it.
That's the New York appellate judges.
Okay.
So, how do you think Trump stands a chance if those are the judges?
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know. You tell me.
Are you saying they're going to give him a fair trial?
I don't know. They're appellate judges. That's who he's got to listen to.
Well, I don't know. You're implying that they're not impartial.
I don't know. Yeah, apparently you were implying that.
I would hope they are impartial. I see nothing that says that they're not impartial.
Okay.
I'd like to look at their history.
All right. I'll look them up. Anyway, so I don't think
that's the difference. I think that's the difference, in my opinion, over court cases over the last, say, 10 years, is that the judicial system is becoming more diverse to where you have more of a representation of the peers that are in the United States. What you see in these court cases now is what you have in America.
Yes.
That wasn't always the case. Now you have a situation where you think about it though, these attorneys, these judges that you see now, they can't do, I'll give you an example. They can't do what Fonnie Willis did in Atlanta and jeopardize her opportunities by being negligent. That's something that you're not going to see on a everyday basis with a diverse background of our attorneys and judges. You're not going to see that because they can't stand that. They can't take that chance of screwing up like this. What you've seen, like I said, that's why I used the example of Trump earlier about his reputation, because people can't just the average person can't get away with what he's gotten away with over the last 30, 40 years. They wouldn't have.
But Lamar,
they wouldn't.
Let me just say something. The case that's presented to those jurors or those judges has nothing to do with his history. It has to do with the facts of this case and the law. Period.
Agreed. That's what I'm saying.
The
evidence they brought against Trump What's his history?
That's what the 12 jurors said too.
That's what they.
I don't find fault with the jurors. I find fault with the evidence and the way it was presented.
There was one of the jurors' main source of news feeds, or one of their main things was X and Truth. So there was, and all they had to do was get one juror to agree, and then it was a hung jury, and it was done. And this guy, that main news source was Truth, and X went with the other 12 after sitting in the courtroom for 6 weeks, listening to the evidence, seeing the posture of the witnesses, which you and me and no one in this room has seen because no one has been there, listening to the law being explained to them by an expert, not some guy on Fox News trying to pretend to be an expert. And then they made a rational decision. A guy that gets his news feed from Truth said he is guilty 34 times.
John, there's so much incorrect in what you just said that I just don't have time to respond to it.
Then take your time, Dad. Tell me what I said wrong.
Start out with the fact that you're inferring that the jurors were influenced by external sources while they were deliberating the decision. I assume that they were not. I assume that they were true to their oath, that they paid attention only to what was presented in court, and only that. They paid attention to the law as described by the judge, and only that. What I'm saying is there are problems with, number one, the evidence that was presented, the evidence that was not presented, the instructions that the judge gave to the jury. Based on that,
you're not an expert. Why do you think there were problems,
John? Based on that, what I'm saying is the jury probably made a correct decision.
But you said that there are problems. You're not an expert in this field.
No, but I'm allowed to have an opinion.
Yes, but you're making a statement. You're saying that the reason why this is because there were problems. Well, that's not a fact.
Well, the facts are,
and if it goes to the appellate court. But anyways, okay, so let's move on from the
appellate court.
Do we all agree that the appeal is not going to be heard before the election?
No.
Do we all think that? So I don't think there's going to be. I don't think the Supreme Court can grant the Supreme Court is already in a big bunch of trouble.
I think if I had to
sit there and say no, you can't do it in DC, but you can't do it in New York.
Let me say something before. If I had to bet on whether or not the Supreme Court is going to hear this, I would bet against it
before the election.
Ever.
Oh, okay. So then let's say that
the only way that we'll get to the Supreme Court is if the appeals court finds in favor of the prosecution, allows the prosecution to stand. I believe it will then go to the Supreme Court, but that's years away.
Yes, and it's definitely not going to happen before November 5th. So that's that all being we're taking all that as fact for moving forward in this conversation.
No, we're not taking it as facts. We're saying
we're just moving forward.
We're talking about it as most probable.
Most probable. The most probable thing, Joey. So we're all in agreement that he is going to be a convicted felon on November 5th, 2024. And he's going to be the nominee, and he's going to have to run for office as a convicted felon. So that being said, just to move forward, the next question is the debate. I've heard that he's already trying to squirm out of it. He's asking for a drug test from Biden. Is that true? Did anybody else hear that?
I know that's true.
That is true. The way I'm thinking that is like, okay, so he's trying to create a reason not to. I can't see how he can go to a debate. Biden doesn't have to answer a question. Always the moderators have to ask him, and Biden just needs to sit there. They have to ask him about this. There's no way you can have a debate, have him be a convicted felon, and them not ask him about it. And any answer is going to be horrendous.
Well,
do you think there's going to be a debate? There's the question. Do you think there's going to be a debate?
I think it's going to be interesting.
You think it's going to go on? You think the debate is going to happen?
I think so.
If I had to bet, I would bet that it will go on.
I do too. Trump likes the spotlight.
I
can't avoid it.
I have no desire or need to see
I would make to the rules that I've heard for the debate is that they're going to quash the microphones of the candidates when it's not their turn to speak. I would add one thing to it. I would like to quash the microphone of the moderator when it's not his turn to speak. I don't want the moderator.
Why do you think they want to do that?
Over people. They ask questions.
Because I don't think the moderator is impartial. The moderator is.
Well, check this out, Bill. Why do you think that they want to mute the mics when one of the debaters is not talking? Why do you think that was a option?
Do you want my opinion?
No, I want the answer, not your opinion, because your opinion is going to be biased. Okay. Why do you think that rule was put in? It's never been put in until recent, right?
Well, I'll tell you. You want me to tell you why I think they did it?
Go ahead. Why?
I think they did it because they fully understand that Biden does not have a wit that is even closely comparable to the quick wit of Trump. And if Trump gets an opportunity to snipe at everything Biden has, he's going to stand there and start going blah 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 blah.
So when should Trump exercise his wit like that? When should he do that?
I don't think he should.
No. Okay, going back to my original question, why do you think they want the option of muting a contestant, a debater's mic when they're not supposed to be speaking?
I know the answer.
I'm giving you the answer. I'm giving you the answer. Why do they want the option to mute the mic of a debater that should not be talking at that moment? I'm giving you the answer, dude. He shouldn't be talking at that moment. It's the other person's time to talk.
I agree with that.
Trump has they didn't put this
I know this
in. But that's what I'm saying. But you're making it sound like it's the moderator's fault.
No,
you're saying the moderator should be muted.
What I'm saying is I agree with you. They should mute the microphone of the guy who does not have the opportunity to speak. What I'm telling you is why I think that was a requirement of the Democrats.
We don't care about that. We're asking you for.
It's been a history, dude. Every time there's a debate, he wants, and not only that, that same character went over.
And I want to stop that.
I don't.
So why did you blame? But you made it, flip it, and made it a Democratic issue, and you made it a moderator issue. That was the first thing that came out of your mouth.
You didn't understand. Did you understand why I want to?
If you would have answered the question just like you just did, you said, I agree. They should mute the mic of the person that shouldn't be talking. He should have stopped there. But you went and made it a Democratic issue. Then you start talking about Biden bubbling his words up. That wasn't a question.
No.
Trump shouldn't be running his mouth and trying to overtalk the next person. If you know Biden is a,
what happened? Do you remember the last debate? Biden had to tell him to shut up.
He told him right because he kept talking.
He's like, "Would you just shut up, man?" Because he's trying to stop. He's trying to stifle Biden from speaking. The moderator's job is to come up with questions.
We're all in agreement on this.
The moderator's job is to come up with the questions, ask the questions, let one person speak.
So we are in agreement. So we're in agreement.
You guys trying to talk, and the moderator has to step in.
You guys want to argue over something that we don't disagree on.
So we don't disagree. So let's go move forward. And so there should be. And if a person keeps talking over the other person when they're not supposed to be talking, we mute the mic. We're in agreement. Let's move forward.
Yeah. Move forward. Now let's talk about the moderator.
Okay. What about him?
Do you think that the moderator that they've anointed are impartial?
Doesn't matter. Okay. I told you I read a whole article of how these are being debated. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if that impartial is subjective too. You don't think anybody that wears a CNN logo is impartial. You think everybody that wears a Fox logo is impartial.
No, I don't.
I don't think that. That's just silly.
You're telling me what I think. I think there are many Fox people that are not impartial. There are many others that are not impartial. We may be able to find the rare
name brand of the logo of the debate makes no difference. The moderator makes no difference.
Impartial, and there has been no effort.
Well, would you guys like to see this? This is what I think. This is how ever since the election with Hillary and Trump, from that point is when I started noticing how these debates were ran, and this is horrible. I think they should be on they're usually in a location, like a university or somewhere, but the moderators should be moderators from multiple. It should be multiple networks, I think, or multiple journalists or multiple people who should be moderating these. It shouldn't be like CNN people doing it or Fox people. It should be a combination of moderators. That's in my opinion, because that keeps it more balanced.
May I give you an opinion? My opinion is that these are not debates. These are press conferences.
Okay.
And may I finish, John, please? I think debates ought to be conducted the way the Lincoln Douglas debates were conducted.
You have no idea how the Lincoln Douglas.
John,
how were they done?
They just let them sit up there and talk, and they asked each other questions, and they did. But it's a component. Dad, that wouldn't work now because Trump would just scream over Biden the whole time. You can't have it that way. And it's all
need a moderator.
We're in a 24-hour news.
You're telling me something that you don't know is fact. Let me tell you how I would conduct a.
But let me tell you. Let's talk about how they're actually negotiating this debate.
I started to give you a description.
No, I know. Dad, you're getting sanctimonious again, and you're going to teach us about Stephen Douglas and now Abraham Lincoln. We don't need to.
Y'all are hilarious. Y'all crack me up.
Okay, you don't want to hear me. That's fine. Talk over me and tell me what I think.
I know, because
both of you guys are acting like Trump right now. You're talking over each other.
So listen.
Tell me what I think.
But Dad, you're sanctimonious. You like to sit there and you think you have a little knowledge over the Stephen Douglas Abraham Lincoln debate, and you want us all to sit there and listen and feed off your knowledge. That's irrelevant at this point. Okay, the way they are negotiating the debates right now. Let me tell you what they're doing, because I just read a whole big huge article on it. They are and I do not think the exact questions should not be the candidates should not know them. They should know the subjects, but not the questions. Does everybody agree with that?
I don't like the question they're asking. They're not asking the deep question that they should be asking.
Well, that's not what I asked though. Like they got to know the subjects. So now this is what's happening. Like the Biden campaign says, I want to talk about these three subjects. The Trump campaign says, I want to talk about these three subjects. The moderator, they get them both to agree on 6 subjects. And then the moderators come up with questions in those subjects. I think that's a good way to do it. I don't think they should be listed out questions and then you ask a question. The American people need to see these guys side by side. The only point of a debate is to be able to judge one against the other. Having one talk over one, it makes no sense. I think that's a pretty fair way of doing it. And if you do it that way, the people asking the questions or the logo on the TV makes no difference. You cannot give these questions. Do we all agree that the candidates should not know the questions ahead of time, because otherwise they will have some canned answer that will be tested, and we need to see honest reactions, correct?
Correct.
All right. So that's how they're doing it. They're picking 3 subjects and they're going at it.
Let me ask you a question.
If they do that, it doesn't matter. And the moderator just keeps them in their lanes.
Let me ask you a question, please, John.
Yeah.
Are you very certain that the questions that are framed by the moderator are going to not give an advantage to one side or the other?
No, I don't. How can the questions give an advantage?
Oh, I think there's a lot of ways they could.
You got to ask a question.
If stop beating your wife, example.
As long as it's within the subjects that we're talking about.
Yeah, well, questions like, to give you a typical classical example, question that you asked them, when did you stop beating your wife? They could ask that type of question to either side, and that would not.
That would be laughed out of the room. There's no accusation for it.
I'm asking that they're going to ask a question.
Give me an example of a question that you think was fair. In the last debate,
and they're going to ask. They're very likely to ask a question which assumes a predicate.
Okay, so do you think it would be, or how about this? Do you think this would be an unfair question? Did you have sex with Stormy Daniels?
I think that would be an irrelevant question.
Why? He's a convicted felon, and he said that he hasn't. He said that he's publicly said he hasn't, which put his lawyers in a place to probably lose the trial. That affected him being a felon, and now that now the American people have to decide if he's a felon that I want to vote for. Why is that an irrelevant question?
I think it's a question which evokes an emotional issue rather than an intellectual issue.
No, Dad. People want to know if he's really a felon, right? People want to know if these charges are trumped.
Whether or not
these charges are bullshit. Then we would have to know: did he have
Daniel is not a felony?
But we the American people are in the court of public opinion. In the court of public opinion, his lawyers made the case for him that he did not have sex with her. I would like to hear him say that.
I don't hear that. I never heard that.
Yes, he did in the opening statements. The opening statements of the trial, they came out and said he had never had sex with her. That's what allowed Stormy Daniels to come in and what allowed them to go into such detail about her interaction with him is because that the basis of their argument was that he didn't have sex with her.
But the issue was not, did he have sex with Stormy Daniels? The issue was...
It is absolutely the core of it.
Did he falsify records?
Yes, that had to do with him having sex with her. So there would be no reason to falsify
records as to whether or not the moon was made of green cheese.
Well, but Dad, that is a very inbounds question. Now that he's been a convicted felon, you can ask, should they not ask about E. Jean Carroll? Should they not ask about his the fraud trial? Can all of that out of bounds to ask about?
And why is that more? Well, I don't know. It's just irrelevant to the kind of things that I think a rational voter would want to make a decision on in the voting. I think a rational voter would want to make.
You don't think that a voter wants to know if the president of the United States is a
you ought to have pay-fors in it so that you don't add to the budget, that you take money from one place and put it in another.
You don't think it's that the American public has the right to know the character of the president of the United States? Are you
concerned about the fact that the debt on the national debt is higher than the defense budget? Is that a concern to you?
Yeah,
both of them.
So as if Trump is a rapist. I mean, that's what I'm saying. This is why you
go to jail, John.
This debate will never happen. They will demand that a drug test be taken of Biden. Biden will not submit to that, and this will get called off, which I'm in favor of because I've already seen this debate. This is two bumbling old men that are just going to talk over each other. No one's going to change their opinion. It's all done for ratings for the news channels, and it's just a big waste of time. And it's good for people like my dad because he'll live and die by it because that's his favorite. That'll be better than the Super Bowl for him. But it's all a waste of time, and it's no one's going to answer questions. So I don't think the debate is going to happen. That's my opinion.
Okay, you're entitled to your opinion.
I might be wrong.
You might be right. You might be wrong. I don't know. I would say it's 50-50 at this point.
Because I don't see how you can not ask those questions. I think. Do you think those kind of questions are legitimate?
Well, yeah. Then if that question is legitimate,
Lamar. I know you don't think they're legitimate, Lamar. What do you think?
What was that now?
They ask questions.
You guys. I just floated out here somewhere because.
So if they ask Trump about his criminal convictions, do you think that's something that is inbounds in a debate setting?
Definitely. I mean, and the reason why I say it's inbound because it's something that's current. It's something that's current, that's good, that's dividing our country. It's something that that the voters are interested in because there needs to be more. If during this debate, some more information may even come out because Trump may say some things to say, wow, okay, we didn't know this. Or it could be a situation where the moderator even asked a question that wasn't presented during the trial. I mean, they have research, they have ways to get information. But
Okay,
it's something that's going to be interesting to the voters, flat out.
if we ask those kind of questions, can we ask Trump? Can we ask Biden rather? If you really did influence foreign governments,
Sure,
to gain
absolutely.
income for his family.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a fine question. And think about it though, what would be like, even when people present that to me about the whole Biden family issue with foreign investors and all investing in foreign companies, I always said that if Biden is guilty, send his butt to jail too. I have no issue with that. I have no issue with Hunter Biden being arrested and put in jail.
Yeah, go to a grand jury, get the charge.
I don't look
go
at
to 12 years, indict him,
I don't look at one of these two. I don't look at Trump and Biden being that different in how they go about things. What the difference for me is with these two candidates is the people that are in their administration, the people that are behind Biden that I see coming up in politics. Those are the ones that give me the encouragement. I don't see that same influence from the people that are coming up behind Trump. I don't see anybody in the Republican Party right now, in my opinion. I don't see anybody in the Republican Party that will draw me to the Republican Party right now.
We're in total agreement about the fundamentals of what you said, but we're in disagreement about the people behind the candidates. Total disagreement.
What shows, like give me an example of someone. I give you the two people right now that's in the spotlight right now. Okay. Jasmine Crawford and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Who represents America better?
I'm grabbing it. I'll be right back.
I don't know anything about either one of them. Let me ask you a question though.
Okay.
If Biden cannot run because he ends up in a hospital for some reason,
okay,
who could replace him?
It's going to automatically go to Kamala Harris.
Okay, and you'd be happy with that?
I would be happy with her over Trump any day.
You'd be happy with Kamala Harris
over Trump? Yes.
No, just over Biden. If Biden is incapable of running.
Yes, I prefer to see how.
What if she can't run? She's automatic because she's VP. But what if she has a heart attack too? Who else? Who in the Democrat Party would you like to see on the ticket?
Hakeem Jeffries.
Hakeem Jeffries. Okay.
The minority Speaker of the House right now.
Okay. How about the California?
No. Let's stick with him. That's who I want to see. Period.
I don't know much about him. To tell you the truth, I've heard him speak.
Well, if you don't know much about him, I would recommend that you look him up, Google him, YouTube him, and then we have a conversation if you think he's a better fit for president.
I've heard him speak several times, and he sounds like a reasonable person.
Yeah,
reasonable person, and I probably wouldn't agree with him on a lot of things, but he's not, and he's competent.
He is competent. You may not agree with all his policy moves, but I think he's a better person to bring balance back into the office, and also a person that will.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think
Trump. I would certainly not agree, but that's okay.
Well, you can't say that because you just told me you don't know much about him.
I don't.
So right now you went partisan right there because you love Trump. You just told me I don't know much about Hakeem Jeffries, but I don't think he'd be better than Trump. You don't know that.
I wouldn't vote for somebody I didn't know much about.
You wouldn't vote. You wouldn't vote for a Democrat.
That's why
you wouldn't vote for a Democrat. Anybody with a D next to their name.
Wait, John. He just exposed himself. He said, "I would never vote somebody I don't know much about." That's a very irresponsible voter. You got to look at both candidates, do research on both candidates to be able to say, I'm going to make an educated choice on who I want to serve as president.
That's what I meant.
But you didn't say that. That's not what you said.
But
you said exactly what your heart was saying.
What I said. That's not what I meant.
Your heart said,
what I meant,
wouldn't put him over Trump. And then you said, I don't know. But the first thing you said was, I don't know much about him. So if you don't know much about him, you should say, well, let me reserve my comment until I learn more. That's what educated response. That's a responsible
You're misinterpreting my intent.
I'm going by what you said. I'm going by what you said.
But you think you know what I meant by what I said.
Okay.
Let me explain what I meant.
So when you said, I don't know much about him, what does that mean?
That means if I were to vote for him, I'd have to learn about him.
No. I said Hakeem Jeffries, and you said I don't know much about him.
The one thing that you're going to learn about him, he's a leader in the Democratic House. You're never going to vote for him. It doesn't matter who that person was, whoever holds that position, you would never vote for just because of that job.
And when it comes to me,
absolutely true.
When it comes to when I respond to something, I respond exactly to what a person says. That's the thing that.
But what you can't control, Lamar, is how the person interprets what you say.
That's not my responsibility.
Yeah,
my responsibility is to go by what you say. It's your responsibility to let me understand your intent. Yeah. You didn't do that.
That's right.
Didn't do that. You didn't do that.
I didn't get an opportunity.
I have to. No, that's not true.
I gave you a very short answer.
Bill, you said, who would I like to see? I said, Hakeem Jeffries.
And I said,
and you said, I don't know much about him.
And
then you said, what about?
Learn more about him.
But you said, what about? You was about to go about somebody from California. You said, what about? And I said, no, let's go back to Hakeem Jeffries. Because that's the next person in line after Kamala Harris. That's why I mentioned him. And when you actually
the next person on the line after Kamala Harris is Johnson. Probably.
Well, I'm sorry. But from we were talking about from the Democratic side.
Yeah.
We were talking about from the Democratic side.
Yeah, I got you.
And the thing about it is that, like I said, I can only go by what you're giving me. I can't read your mind. So you have to let me know what's in your mind. So I'm letting you know what's on my mind. I said, I gave you my reason for Hakeem. He's very intelligent. He brings balance to both sides. He's going to be a person that can cross the aisle and talk respectively and not be partisan about it.
He organized people to save Johnson's job again.
Lamar, what you're doing is you're assuming what's on my mind.
I'm not.
We're not, Dad. You said things. These
I
words.
Say it, but you're assuming.
Say I misspoke. All you gotta do is to say, Dad. Say, you know what? I misspoke. I did. That's not what I meant. My bad. And we move on.
He's too prideful to say it.
Let's move on.
You're too prideful. Just be honest, man. You screwed up the comment. Just say what. Be truthful. Be transparent.
I screwed up the comment. I should have said, in order to vote for him, in order to decide whether or not I would have to learn much more about him.
Thank you.
There you go.
That's the answer.
That's what I meant.
Okay, I didn't know that. So
now you do. Now let's end the conversation.
Now we can continue.
Now I want to bring up another subject and see if you guys think if it's inbounds or out of bounds for a debate. So right now, Donald Trump in his fraud trial owed like $500 million. He had to go get bonded, which means he needed someone to front him the money to do that, right? Which means he didn't have the money on hand, although apparently he paid the bondsman cash. Either way, he's got a big judgment against him. Do you think putting somebody in the position of president of the United States with owing $500 million that he did not have, is that something that should be explored? Is that a good idea to put somebody in that much debt?
Look at
the Menendez who had the gold bars and his wife. Look at all the backwards deals that Jared Kushner did with the billionaires. Oh, do we want to put someone in that financial strains to be in charge of the United States and be able to, sell out, rent out the Lincoln bedroom, or who knows what else he could be doing?
No, I don't think it's cool. I don't agree with it.
I know what your answer is, and your answer is no, we shouldn't do that.
But no, should that be explored? Should that be talked about? Is that inbounds for a debate?
Sure.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure. I would think.
Do you want to have that debate?
Do
you want to have that debate?
So you think it's okay to put you have no qualms whatsoever putting somebody that much in debt into the president?
I have qualms about it, but let me tell you what I think about it. My feelings on it. My feelings are, number one, that that's an absolutely absurd judgment that will never stand appeal. So I don't think he's ever going to really have to pay that. That's number one. Number two, if he does have to say it, I think he has assets that he could pay it if he wanted to sell Trump Tower. Or if he wanted to sell Mar-a-Lago. He could. Mar-a-Lago, they're saying, is worth what, $12 million? It's worth $1 billion. I've gone by it both on the highway and on the ocean, and I can tell you, it is worth astounding amount of money.
That building's so old.
He could sell it. And he could pay that.
I'm in trouble, Dad. It's not worth $1 billion. I don't think you're underestimating.
Worth $500 million, I'll guarantee you.
He's inflating the value of the property.
That's what got him in trouble. It's exactly that's illegal.
What happened is they're
you can't inflate it for when you're trying to sell it, but then deflate it when you're trying to pay your taxes on it.
Can't inflate it,
and that's what he got in trouble.
You got to have somebody to pay it.
You want to inflate it in order to tell banks that, hey, you know what, you got to loan me this much money because I have this much money. But when the government says, okay, you said it's this much money, you say, no, it's only worth this much money because I only want to pay taxes.
You think that's never done by anybody else? That's done all the time, John.
What problems in that trial were appealable? What is not fair? Just the number, the amount is not fair.
The amount that they claimed that Mar-a-Lago was valued at was like $12 million. There's a swimming pool on Mar-a-Lago worth $12 million, for Christ's sakes.
Dad, you're not a real estate agent.
No, but I've been there and I've seen it. Okay. And I'm familiar with.
You know what? $12 million.
I'm familiar with real estate in South Florida, especially on that island.
That I grew up there, so I've been there too. So we've all. Locality doesn't give you any advantage here. So
have you been there in the last 20 years?
I've driven through, with Tom all the time, probably. Yeah, he lives in Palm Beach. But anyway, so
okay, here you go. Right, this is what I got right here. This is something that I didn't know. This is from Wikipedia, and actually, I don't know how true this is or not because I'm not that familiar with the value of Mar-a-Lago. But it says here. Let me find it. Where is it at?
350 million.
Yeah, 350 million. That was in 22. However, this valuation ignored the restrictions put on the property. In 1995, Trump gave up the right to use Mar-a-Lago for any purpose other than a social club by agreeing to a deed of conservation and preservation. I don't know anything about that, but okay. So I don't know if it still keeps the value or not. I'm not sure.
Trump Tower. How about the golf course in Scotland? How about the golf course in New Jersey? Can we sell all of them and get 500 million?
I'm sure the Trump Tower.
Would you demand that he settle this debt before he takes office?
No, because I think it's appealable.
So, okay, so this appeal process will also take years. So we're going to have this guy in office for an amount of time that may or may not win an appeal, having this hanging over his head. Meanwhile, he's going to have access to pass laws that could be favorable to people so he could get a side money. He could be selling bars like the Menendez woman with the Saudi Arabians and give them a cheap discount on aircraft carriers or whatever the hell he is. This is a very sensitive position to put
for that.
Have this over his head for some duration of his presidency.
You're saying he could be compromised, you're saying?
Yes, absolutely.
He could be compromised. Any president can be compromised. We know that.
But and also, Dad, I think the appeal, I mean, everybody's the favorite word by a Trump supporter right now is the appeal process. You're assuming that some magic appeal process are going to come in and snap their fingers and make state courts change their minds. Or the federal courts he has, if he becomes president, then I agree. He can, with a wave of his hand, he can make those go away. He's the head of the department.
No, he was convicted of
these state charges, and we don't even talk about Georgia. We're not even talking about Georgia because for all of these state crimes, you're assuming the Supreme Court is going to step in and step on states' rights.
You made a good point about that. I remember when like Bill was saying how corrupt Marshawn is. That's basically what he was saying. He's not a fair judge, right? He's a partisan judge, right?
Which one was Marshawn?
In New York.
Yeah.
The one who just
The latest
for the hush
one.
money.
Not the fraud trial. Go ahead.
The one that's hush money trial.
Edgeron is the fraud trial. Yeah.
This is the he said Marshawn, he's the this guy. He said that so Bill thinks he's partisan, correct, Bill?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that he is. I mean,
so what do you think about the Supreme Court?
I think the Supreme Court. What are you laughing at, John?
Go ahead. Sorry. The Supreme Court's pretty partisan as well.
Well, hold on, John. I didn't ask you, Bill. What do you think of the Supreme Court?
I think there are individuals on the Supreme Court that believe in interpreting the Constitution within the four corners of the Constitution.
Oh,
let me finish. Who are they? There's probably 5 or 6 of them that you would consider conservative. They assume that the Supreme Court, that the Constitution ought to be. Are you still there? We lost them. Are we off, John? Can you hear me, John?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We just lost Lamar.
Yeah, he'll come back. Hold on. I can hear you.
You know what?
I was looking at the YouTube feed, and I hope I didn't kick him out. I don't think I had that power.
We're talking about the
let me text him. Hold on.
Politics on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, I was following along. Go ahead with what you were saying. See,
Lamar,
so you don't lose your train.
No, I could start over again. But Lamar, I got to get a drink of water. I'm losing my voice.
Go ahead. Go get a drink of water then.
Ah. Oh, man.
Oh, okay. We got to start a new one. Now I'm in 2. I'm in 2. I'm in one with you, and I'm in another one with just Dad. Yeah, you just dropped off. Me and my dad are still in it.
It's simple that I'm happy to see that when people do something wrong and they are caught for it, that they are punished for it. Because he has not.
I don't know what
You're back.
you're recording. I clicked off myself. He's still recording. I'm bad. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
So I was asking Bill, what do he think about the Supreme Court? He was saying he think a couple of them are partisan. I mean, or can be impartial. And I wanted to know who, because what makes him think that?
I think my opinion is that they are all faithful to their interpretation of the Constitution. Now, they have different interpretations of the Constitution. There are a group that says
you don't think 3 of them that have been appointed by Trump has any kind of factor of why you want everything taken to the Supreme Court?
Let me finish, please. I think there are several of them that believe that the Constitution ought to be interpreted based on the words in the Constitution and the amendments. There are others who believe that the Constitution ought to be interpreted in terms of modern feelings, modern jurisprudence. That's the difference. I don't think that's partisan one way or another. That is a different view of the Constitution.
All right.
Okay, what about Clarence Thomas?
Originalists, and yeah, we all know all that.
Thomas is a clear person who is very conservative in his view that the Constitution ought to be interpreted in exactly what it says.
Would he be partisan, or would he be impartial or nonpartisan if this case went to the Supreme Court?
Politically, I think he'd be completely impartial politically.
Based off of what? What makes you say that?
Because I think he's an honorable man, very honorable man who has pledged to interpret the Constitution and his interpretation of the Constitution, it has to be literal, and that's what he would do.
It's impossible.
I believe that an honorable man will do exactly what he says he's going to do.
Dad,
I believe Sotomayor is the exact same. Is very similar. I don't think she would be partisan, but she would interpret the Constitution. Sonia Sotomayor or the Ketanji Brown or who's the other liberal? They would interpret the Constitution based on how they would interpret the words in today's venue.
Do you think they would be nonpartisan when it comes to judging Trump's case? Because right now I'm looking at this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at Clarence Thomas. We were talking about him first. You said he would be nonpartisan.
Lamar, there's a picture of the Supreme Court up. You know that, right?
Right. I put that up there.
Okay, it's not a picture of us. So
yeah, it's a picture of the Supreme Court. I just put them there on purpose.
Oh, okay.
So we just heard the issues with Alito, right? Recently.
Yes. Upside down.
Do you think he would be nonpartisan if this case went to the Supreme Court?
What did he do?
Flew a flag upside down around Joe.
He didn't do it. His wife did it, but that's beside the point. Okay.
And he also put one out on his summer home that was in a flag that had something to do with the January 6th, under heaven, something under heaven, whatever.
No, that's okay. That's been flown since the revolution.
Yes, I know, but it was also flown by all those guys at January 6th, too.
It's flown in the state of California forever, and they just took it down.
So if Clarence Thomas accepted luxury trips over the last 2 decades, right, virtually from every year from Dallas businessman without disclosing, this is Harlan Crow, without disclosing him, documents and interviews show the public servant who was a salary of $285,000, he has vacation on Crow's super yacht around the globe. He flies Crow's Bombardier Global 5000 jet. He's going with him to different resorts. Is that a conflict of interest in your opinion?
Could be.
No, it's either a yes or no. Could that be? Do you think that's a conflict of interest? That's a yes or no answer. Because you just told me how the New York judge was partisan. Now, he was basically prejudiced to Trump.
You're asking me if I think it's a conflict of interest, and I say I would have to understand more about the details.
You know, I just gave them to you.
I
said for 2 decades.
Question. So.
I said for 2 decades. That's pride again, right? That's when you're too prideful to be transparent. Yeah. I just gave you the answer. He's had over these tons of trips from a Republican donor. These trips exceed over $500,000. Could that be a conflict of interest? That's all I'm asking.
I'm saying it could be. I don't know.
Let's go to the end of this real quick. Just so, do you think that MAGA crowd is the reason why that they're all trying to get everything up to the Supreme Court is because that Trump appointed 3 of them and they think they'll get a favorable opinion from partisan from?
That's the easy answer.
Yeah, but that's get him to admit to that, and then but he won't. Because he thinks the Supreme Court's blah, 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 blah. He's going to try and act partial, but that's not what he talks about.
But I'm saying, he didn't believe the New York judge, though.
Yeah, I know.
That's what's confusing. That's what's confusing.
I believe there are several people on that court that you couldn't depend on if that was your object.
People get up every day. There are people like us that follow politics. Okay, there are people like us that are the political nerds. We are a very, very, very small minority of that follow as closely as we do. But most of the people are like my wife that just don't care, and they only hear about the 34 felony convictions and move on with their life. But we don't. I still don't get up and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to decide which pants to put on today because I'm a Democrat. That is something that is new. That is something that's happened within the last 20 or 30 years, but it's not something that rules my life. I still like to think that I see situations and I try to treat people the way they treat me, and I make most decisions. And I believe most people are like that. You don't let politics rule your life. And the reason why, Dad, you have a problem with all of these rulings again is because you do. You have never voted for a Democrat in your entire life. You don't see any difference between you. You will follow an R from Goldwater to McCain to Trump, and not because the R is there, because that's how you are. That's how you've always been. But most people aren't like that. Most people, and especially if you're a judge. And then and you just told me that when you're a foreman of a jury, you got to put all that aside. But if some reason you think you can do it, but you don't think anybody else can do it, the only reason why these convictions are being appealed because they're the wrong ones. He doesn't agree with the situation. There are no appellate.
John, you're making a lot of assumptions that are not fact.
There are no appellate reasons. You have to have a reason to appeal. You have to sit there and point to specifically say this trial was unfair because of this. And then an appeal court has to. Everybody also knew about Trump. If he ever got into a court of law, he's screwed. He lives off bloviating. He lives off lying to the press. He lives off being able to say things without any penalty of perjury.
That's fact.
The media. He lives off of that. But if you can't do that in a court of law, which is why he didn't testify.
Is that different than any other politicians you can name?
Yeah, that doesn't matter. That is irrelevant. They're trying to point to something else and say, well, that guy over there is doing it, so my guy can too. That's another standard flaw of logic. You can't sit there and try
are always
behavior by
my opinion, elections always trying to pick the best bad answer.
No, it isn't. It doesn't have to be. But even if you do that, there is no comparison. But you don't have a best bad answer. You don't weigh things by the weights of their arguments. You weigh things by a D or an R. That's how you've done your whole life.
Like, he did it during the show, though. He did it during the show, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. That's how you are. But that's not everybody. That is not. That matter of fact, there's very few people like that. And when you're set and charged with being a foreman of a jury, and they tell you got to put that stuff aside, you yourself said you could do it. What makes you think you're different than anybody else?
Evidence. If I look at the decisions this judge has made, the one in the Trump
didn't agree with them. You don't like them. Those are the reason why you think that it's going to be turned over appeals because you don't like the decisions. Not that
I don't like them.
Illegal. You like not like the decision.
I think they were partisan. Really.
Okay. Well, we've gotten to all the impact. What other impacts of this thing? I don't really have. I have like a little list of things I wanted to hit.
I got a very big one we haven't talked about.
Which one do you want to talk about?
Well, you got to let me finish. Let me explain it without interrupting.
Well, don't get sanctimonious. Don't try and teach us things.
It's not sanctimonious, and I'm not teaching. I'm explaining it. What I think a hazard is of what's happened recently. What we have allowed to happen is a attorney general of a state has allowed to indict a person who is running for president on a federal charge. Now that means that any state attorney general could indict Joe Biden or if he weren't
So
already president.
you're reinforcing my thing. So you're saying that any Republican, the state of Alabama,
my turn.
I know, but I know where you're going here. So it's going back to the DNR. You think the state attorney of Alabama can bring a charge against Joe Biden, bring him down to Alabama and charge him, get an Alabama jury and convict him because you think anybody in a red state can't think blue, and you think anybody in a blue state
can't do it because of presidential immunity. But if you take away presidential immunity,
you're reinforcing the point
right now.
You're reinforcing the point.
Somebody running for president who is not president, any attorney general in any state can bring a charge against them and then order
they would have to have broken the law. You're forgetting
a
Dad,
presidential
candidate. They would have to go to a grand jury. They would have to go to a grand jury. They would have to go to a grand jury. There would have to be a law broken. You're forgetting about that. You're just saying, you know what? Partisan people will totally put the law aside. There does not need to be a broken law because they're so partisan. You're forgetting about the hurdle of a law and a broken law and a grand jury. That is a big thing.
Couple of things, John. First of all, not all indictments have to go to a grand jury. Number one, but assume it did. What if in Alabama you picked a strict partisan jury, which you could do just as you did just as you could in Manhattan? You could get the same kind of an indictment in Alabama. You've
already made this. You posted this in Prim. So if Biden lies to the media, you think an Alabama state attorney general?
No, answer that. Do you think that's a hazard?
No, but it's not a hazard because somebody would have had to break the law.
If it can be done to Trump, If it can be done to Trump, why couldn't it be?
No, because Trump broke the law, Dad.
But he's accused of breaking the law.
No, he's not. He's convicted of breaking the law 34 times.
But prior to from when the gag order was applied.
But Biden, in order to get that to trial, there would have to be an allegation of misconduct of a law being broken. And then you have to go to a jury and prove it. And you would and you have to start with the law being broken. Biden is not broken.
You're right. The grand jury. Yeah, but the grand jury never brought it against. They never brought it to the grand jury for Biden because there wasn't nothing. He didn't find any evidence he did anything wrong. That's why.
But
the grand jury accused the grand jury found his fault.
Everybody on that grand jury was a Democrat, or else they would have made up a law for him to break.
A grand jury indicts. It does not convict.
They've been trying to bring. Check out.
A grand jury does not hear exculpatory evidence, so it's very easy to get an indictment, much easier than a conviction.
The Congress has been trying to find something against Biden to show that he had some type of collusion with his son with this stuff with Ukraine. They've been trying, and they have not been able to bring anything up at all. They've been asking for it.
If it's so easy to get an indictment. If it's so easy to get an indictment, how come they haven't been able to indict Trump, Biden?
John, you guys are changing.
Why hasn't someone gone to Alabama and indicted?
Why don't you respond to my original thesis? That this is a hazard to the republic.
I don't agree with the framing of the question. I don't think it's a problem. It's not a hazard to the republic. That's the answer.
Why?
Hazard.
Why?
Because Biden would have to break the law.
No, we're not talking about Biden. We're talking
about someone has to break a law.
No,
you're looking over the fact that
they have to break the law. They have to be accused of it.
Yes, and so if Hunter Biden and Biden, that could happen today. That could happen today. Hunter Biden broke the law with his dad. Why doesn't Jim Jordan go down to the state of Alabama and say, you know what? I need you to indict them because we can indict anybody on a ham sandwich. So let's indict him and bring him to court in Alabama for breaking the law. You know why they didn't do that? Why haven't they indicted Biden? Biden is part of the Biden crime family.
Well, why don't we check out something?
Part of the Biden crime family. Why haven't they done it? Because no one's broken a law, Dad. You're overlooking about the legality of things.
You're talking about the president.
Well, let's hear what they said in Congress about this whole Biden impeachment thing, trying to get him convicted of something, to get him in trouble, saying he did something wrong. Let's see what they have to say about this. Hopefully that I do this right. It's been a minute that I tried to share something, but I'm just curious. I'm just curious.
You haven't answered to the proposition that I made.
Because Dad, it's a loaded proposition. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of
it. Let's just see what they're saying about this thing with Biden. I'm just curious to hear what the conversation was like.
The subject, Lamar.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, you are.
Okay,
Dad, I'm not afraid of it because if Biden could be
forget Biden. This is 20 years from now.
If somebody could go to Alabama and get a Democrat convicted, well, they have to go through. They have to get him indicted. They have to take him to a court of law. People have to raise their hands, tell the truth, and face perjury. And they got to convince a jury of 12 to put him in jail. If they can do all that, I believe in the Department of Justice. I believe in our justice system. It's the best in the world.
That's not necessary.
We lost Lamar again.
Lamar is gone.
Yeah.
You refuse to address the issue.
The issue is, do you think that's a problem to the you're asking me if that's a threat to the democracy, and I don't, and my answer is no, it isn't, because I believe in our Department of Justice. I believe that all of those are big hurdles to get over. And you can't just sit there and think that someone's going to be like, well, I'm a Republican, so fuck all those Democrats. I don't care about the law. I'm going to go convict them.
Okay, let's go to a closing right now so I can get out of here.
Yeah, that's
good. You're totally misinterpreting my issue. But you haven't addressed any of the issues that I...
You asked me if you thought if there was a threat to the democracy.
But you don't understand the threat.
That somebody could go and get a Democrat, a Republican could get a Democrat convicted without a law being broken.
No, that you don't. You have no.
Explain that.
You see a threat against one man, but you don't see the threat against the other guy.
No, I see a threat against the Republic.
You see a threat against the Republic.
You see that from both, though, right?
Yeah.
From the Republican Party and the Democratic Party.
Either way.
Either way. Okay.
20 years from now. I don't know it could be two people who have never been president. So immunity does not apply. And
okay,
I as a Democrat go or as a Republican, I go and I accuse somebody of beating his wife in Arkansas, and I get him not convicted but indicted in Arkansas of beating his wife. I can now say, bring it to trial, and now there's a trial in process. He hasn't been convicted, but I can, if this precedent follows that with Trump, may I finish? If the president
would need to be some evidence to beat his wife.
John, when I finish, then you can speak.
You're just looking over.
If the precedent follows, now the judge can put a gag order on the guy that's running for president against certain things. So now you are restricting the
Why was the gag order put in place?
Because the judge felt it was appropriate.
No. What was done to ask for the gag order, to push the gag order? What was done?
That's up to the judge.
No, answer the question.
No, like what was actually done? What happened in New York?
What I'm saying is it's entirely possible that
the 10 charges he got something.
So right now, Bill, you're not being transparent. What happened? What happened? So what happened to make the judge put in a gag order? Be honest.
I don't know. This is a hypothetical.
No.
He doesn't know. You don't know. That's honest.
Bill, so you're saying you didn't see anything. You didn't read. You didn't hear any news. Hold on, John.
It's not a hypothetical.
You're saying through the whole time, you're giving me all this information about the trial that you thought wasn't right, but yet the questions I asked, you don't know what happened. You say you don't know why the gag order was put in place.
You're talking about the present. You're talking about the present trial.
This hush money trial.
Yeah, okay. That do you agree that there wasn't a gag order put in place?
I ask you, why was it put in place?
That he violated the gag order 10 times.
Because
why was it? No, see, what I'm saying, I want him to tell me why it was put in place.
Because the judge felt it was appropriate.
Why was it appropriate?
I don't know.
So so do you think it's possible that Trump telling the name and addresses of the witnesses is not? He should be allowed to talk about that.
No, see, he's going to tell you he didn't see that because he's saying it right now. He don't know why, which is bull crap. There's no reason. He watched every interview Trump did after trial. I know you heard everything Trump said after each time he came out of court. Every time he came on the court, he got on the microphone, and whatever news cycle you listen to, you had to have heard Trump saying, this is rigged, this is not fair, this judge is that, but you can't tell me why the judge put the gag order on him. That's bull crap. You're not being transparent right now. You're just going to be prideful. If you're not going to be real with me, we're wasting time.
From my hypothetical, my future.
It ain't no hypotheticals. You watch the news like everybody else.
I am proposing a hypothetical. In the future,
I'm tired of the lack of transparency.
Is that
because you want to? Because when I asked you, I said, why was the gag order put in place? You said because you thought the judge thought it was appropriate, and I asked you why, and you saying you don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I know he did it though. I know he had the power to do it.
So he put the gag order on Trump. What do you think Trump did for the judge to impose the gag order?
You probably said the judge was a stupid son of a bitch.
No. He can talk about the judge all the
He can talk about the judge said, you can't do that.
He can't talk about the court reporter's family.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Why can't he talk about the court reporter's family or the court reporter?
The issue
Why can't he?
The issue was the judge.
Why can't he talk about the girl that is sit there and transcribe the thing? Right. Why can't he talk about her name and address?
He can.
No, he can't. Why can't he?
He could be sued for it, I presume.
No, but what could happen in the meantime?
But you can't a priori.
Do you deny?
Let me let you know why a gag order.
Pipe bombs.
He has a First Amendment right to do it. But they have the right.
This is the danger. This is the danger of why these gag orders have been put in place. Every case that Trump is being tried upon right now, the gag order is in place with Bragg and the judge in New York because there were death threats on their families. The same thing in D.C. That judge had death threats on her family. When you look at Georgia, Fani Willis and her staff had death threats on their families. That's why they're telling Trump to shut up. They put a gag order on him because he's causing his supporters to go out there and do stupid things. Not only is the gag order protecting these families, these gag orders are also keeping his supporters from doing stupid stuff and getting in trouble.
You don't think that's a real threat that his supporters?
That's the lack of transparency. He act like he don't know that.
That's how he justifies it, and it may be valid.
You don't believe Trump supporters are threatening people?
It may be true.
It's fact. They've been caught. They've been caught already.
Yeah, they've been caught. We've had a Trump supporter. We had January 6th.
Absolutely.
There were Trump supporters everywhere willing to do it.
So getting back to the gag order, I just gave you ample opportunity to say why judge imposed it on Trump. We didn't just gave you examples. If you don't think that's a valid reason for a gag order, if you think the First Amendment right in this situation is more important than the lives that are threatened by people who are trying to do their job, that means our democracy is already broken. That means these are not these so-called law and order Republicans. This means that the whole patriotic thing is out the door because none of this is American. None of it.
But this is a unique situation, Lamar.
Ain't no unique situation. This has been going on for years.
It's a choice.
May I tell you why it's unique?
He's running. It's running for
president. As if you or I were doing that. Then it would be appropriate for the judge to do it. But it's a unique situation when you put a gag order on a candidate.
No, it is not. Running for candidate.
Okay.
President doesn't allow you to intimidate witnesses. You can't intimidate witnesses because you're running
a gag order.
No. Let's take his statement. Let's take his statement. He said it was unique. You said it was unique because it was a president running for office. Now, what would have been the brightest thing? What would have been the most intelligent thing for Trump to do? If he has kept his mouth shut, if he had kept his mouth shut in these situations, this trial would have went on and it wouldn't have been a gag order. He could have talked. It wouldn't have been if it was going to be a conviction, whether or without him running his mouth. As you see, it didn't make a difference. He ran his mouth, and it didn't make a difference with the jury.
What you're saying is what Trump should or shouldn't have done. And I don't want to argue.
I think on the from the time Trump has been in office.
Lamar,
think about it.
But I want to talk about the precedent, not the president.
Okay.
For future situations in which candidates are running for office.
I don't give a shit. Candidate, you can't run for president and break laws. You can't run for president and intimidate witnesses. Judges, do you think it's a judge's responsibility to protect the witnesses for the integrity of the trial? Do you think it's okay for judges to sit back and say, you know what, you can do whatever and threaten this guy? When we get him on the trial, also he says, I don't know nothing because this guy's threatening my life. He's got my kids locked up in a basement.
And now
the judge's role to
you know what the precedent that was set? The precedent you said that was set. The precedent has been set to saying that no more will we see first of all, powerful people, and then we say politicians abuse the system the way Trump just did. He abused that opportunity. He abused it.
What we're saying, Lamar, is in the future, we give the power to one person, a judge, to tell a presidential candidate what he can and cannot speak about.
Stat.
He should in the court of law.
You honestly not thought about
you think he should? I think that's a dangerous thing.
I think it's a dangerous thing to let witnesses get intimidated by thugs. That's a fair trial. You worried about the
no. I'm talking about a totally irrational judge. Say he's a Republican judge.
Now it's down to a Republican judge and a Democrat.
Totally irresponsible means he can still do it, and there's no appeal.
Why should Trump be allowed to speak his mind?
Forget about Trump.
You're just saying about the judge.
Why should John Gotti get?
There's a Republican judge that
finger
up and says you can and can't talk about certain things.
Okay, he should say that.
Intimidate a witness that is about ready to finger.
No, a Republican judge should be able to say the same thing to a presidential candidate.
Okay.
You cannot talk about this case because
why don't I run for president and then just go start committing crimes and say?
I understand you don't see that as a hazard to the republic. I do.
No, I said I think either judge, whether Republican or Democrat or whatever judge, whatever platform they like, they should be able to restore order in their court. This court was a circus from the beginning.
To protect the integrity of a trial.
He has to.
Yes, you cannot let defendants intimidate witnesses against them.
What I'm thinking of is, this is a thought that comes to my mind. There should be a way to protect the freedom of speech of anyone who is running for president.
No, there are no running for president exceptions.
No. Why? Hold on, John. Ask him why. But hold on. He said the person running for president should have that freedom. I'm asking that freedom of speech. Why should they?
Because the president has it.
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
I can't imagine a judge would put a gag order on a president.
Why should the president have that freedom of speech? Why should they have that freedom of speech?
Immunity. I'm thinking here. I'm not sure what I'm saying.
RFK Jr.
I want you to think about this and not just talk off the top of your head. A president has presidential immunity to ensure that he can make decisions without being biased by the fact that he might be
president.
If it's dealing with protecting our country, we're talking about this cup of
Listen,
crap.
We're talking
Donald
about
Trump is a private citizen.
talking about people who are
There's
not
no difference between Donald Trump and anybody in this.
who are running for president.
Who
Why would-
cares?
Why
Does RFK get to intimidate witness? RFK Jr.
You're not talking.
Well, you said no. You're running for president. Cornel West is running for president. Does he get to intimidate witnesses if he gets indicted?
I'm not saying that he should. I'm just saying.
I'm asking. Answer those questions. So it's running for president. Does it mean leading in the polls, running for president? Does it mean Nikki Haley? When does she stop running for president? When does she get to intimidate witnesses, and when does she does?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
No, it's not a good question. You don't get to intimidate witnesses ever.
I think if you're nominated, that may be the situation.
Okay, he's not nominated.
No, this is a hypothetical, John.
No one should be able to intimidate witnesses.
That is the answer, Dad. You cannot intimidate witnesses.
Nobody.
And that goes for people who are Democrats who are nominated.
It doesn't. Nobody. Yes.
Nobody.
Dad. Nobody.
And we're agreeing that nominees for president should have.
So if you are trying to intimidate witnesses, the judge has a right to gag you and then hold you in contempt and fine you, which is what happened.
I don't think you're agreeing with that, are you, Lamar?
Why? What do you mean? What part? I don't think anyone should be able to intimidate a witness, Republican or Democrat. If you're running for president, if you're any court case, you shouldn't have that freedom of speech just because you're running for president. That's bullcrap.
Well, let's change it to nominated for president.
No.
Okay, even if you're nominated for president, why should you have the freedom to
intimidate a witness? If a witness, how can you ever have a fair trial if witnesses are afraid for their life?
When you're running for president,
oh my God,
you have the way you get elected is exercising your freedom of speech, and now freedom
of speech doesn't mean you get to make threats. Doesn't mean
the difference is if you're nominated and you have a freedom of speech. Your freedom of speech is talking about your campaign, blogs, whatever. Yeah. We're talking about a criminal trial. That's why the gag order was put in place.
But there is a criminal trial in Arkansas.
Okay, and
that judge in Arkansas has imposed a gag order.
On who?
What the hell is he talking about?
Against the nominee.
What are you talking about?
I have no idea what he's talking about.
Well, I'm talking about a hypothetical. This has not happened. This is something that might happen.
Bill, right now we're talking about
you never get to threaten a witness.
Bill.
You cannot. How can you have a fair? How can the Sixth Amendment? How can the Sixth Amendment withstand if you're able to intimidate witnesses?
John, let's talk about specifics.
We got to wrap up.
Let's go ahead and roll up, man. I got stuff to do today, and like I said, I like dealing with transparency.
I want you to think about what I've.
We've already.
What is it? What is it, John? What is it, Bill, that you want me to think about? What is it?
All right, give me a moment to describe it. And I don't know. I'm not sure how it come out on this, but it would be an interesting thing to discuss.
Okay, what is it?
We have a situation in Arkansas where we have a totally partisan Republican judge and a Republican jury and a Republican grand jury who is trying a nominated Democrat candidate for president.
Okay.
And that judge has imposed a gag order on that nominee for the Democrat nominee.
Okay. What did the nominee do?
Who cares? Let's say he did. Let's say he said that.
You also got to care about the crime. But Dad, there is such thing as a Republican judge and a Republican.
It only matters. It only matters to the judge what he says.
Being a Republican and Democrat is not being blue-eyed or brown-eyed. It's not being, that is not like inherent in anybody. And being a Republican 10 years ago and being a Republican now are two entirely different things. You can't make laws based on Republican juries and Republican judges and Republican states. Is Georgia a red state or a blue state right now? Last time it was blue, the time before it was red. Does anybody in Georgia get to?
The judge is the sole arbiter of the gag order that he applies.
It's always the reason why. And why did he do it? Why did he do it?
assume judge thinks it's a good reason.
It's not just because the judge thought it's a good
No,
reason.
there has to be law. He had to
The judge do it. The judge did it because the person he's imposing the gag order on violated what the rules
or
were.
is being at least accused of being a violator.
No. The judge says if you say something that was not right, that was improper, a threat or whatever, the judge gives you a warning. When you continue to violate the warning, actually, if that was me or you, Bill, we would have been put in jail because of this. You know that, right?
What?
If we had violated, if we had went against the judge's orders of what to say and what not to say, the way he did with Trump, and we continued to violate it, but we would be in jail right now if that was us, right?
Violating first of all, I never violated judge's gag order.
No. I said we would be in jail. We would be in jail if we kept doing the things that he did. We would be in jail. We would be in jail. That's not a hypothetical. That's a fact. That's a fact.
That's the judge's decision.
Yes, exactly. And he gave him the benefit of the doubt 10 times.
He's coming back to the present.
But Dad, he's getting favorable treatment from what Lamar is trying to say is that Trump is getting much more favorable treatment than anybody else. Because of what you're saying, because he's running for president. So he is getting a break.
He got a break.
What you're talking about is irrelevant to my hypothetical because
Dad, your hypothetical
nominated candidates to start.
Dad, your hypothetical it consists of unicorns and fairies, like Republican judges, Republican Democrats, Republican those are not real things.
Well, it's been very obvious. It's been very obvious. Bill is not going to be transparent, flat out. Okay, let's accept that he's not. Because we've had these we keep putting this. When I say transparency, it started off when I first asked you why were the gag orders imposed. You couldn't be transparent. Then you told me I don't know. It's the judge's decision. The judge made a decision because of the actions of Donald Trump. Flat out, his actions is what caused it.
But I'm saying, Lamar, it's what the judge did here is irrelevant to my hypothetical.
Your hypothetical is irrelevant. It's irrelevant to this whole conversation because we're talking about Donald Trump's case.
Let's have another conversation.
We're talking about Donald Trump's case.
Yeah, but let's have another conversation.
We can't have
let's have another conversation.
Unicorns and fairy tales because that's what you're trying.
Because what you're doing is pividing from the conversation. You're pivoting.
You're trying to make this in a way that you can win.
We're nowhere on that other conversation, but let's try.
Dude, Trump screwed up. Okay, let's start there. If Trump had shut his mouth, he wouldn't have had a gag order.
Has Trump violated any laws? All of these trials, all of the E. Jean Carroll, has anything? Is it all made up? Is it all 100%?
Check out. Let's close out because I got to go, man.
All right.
Yeah, we've talked over 2 hours and we're rehashing the same issues. I'm trying to every question something which is a little more interesting.
Everything I asked the question about, I just need, where we can have a dialogue where it just shows that, okay, we don't have to always agree, but we can see what the facts are.
But
we're not doing that.
You're not willing to come and be transparent and honest, and it's
not. It's like it's fruitless, man. It's like we go through this all the time, and it's like, well, what about this? It's not about a what about nothing. It's like we're looking at the situation. If any of us was in that situation, regardless if he's running for president or not, if Trump would have just shut his mouth, he wouldn't have had no gag orders. If he had shut his mouth as a president, he would be president again right now.
Yeah, that's true.
I understand.
And that's what I'm saying.
Twitter and stop fucking doing all this stupid shit.
But it's like you keep giving this man excuses. It's like you keep giving excuses for what shouldn't. It's frustrating.
It's not an excuse. What I'm trying to get you to understand is the implications of what has recently happened, which is unique in history.
All right.
That means we don't want to have this again.
Let's go ahead and end this. Let's put a pin in this. We'll I'm sure something will happen in a couple weeks and we'll do it again. But good stuff. Fun.
Okay.
I got like 1 o'clock. Maddie's coming home. I got stuff to do.
Okay. Well, y'all have a great day. Great weekend, man.
All right.
All right.
Talk to y'all later. Bye.
Yeah.